This is my world. This is what's possible for me. This is what's not possible for me. And so we can create magic in our own life simply by bringing in things that we didn't think we could ever have. Or as I sometimes call it, like making dreams come true.
Hello and welcome to Holistic Circle Podcast, Spiritual Conversation. My name is Philipp Kobald. We are reaching out to people who are passionate about spreading light, love, and joy. And I'm happy to have here with me Julie Grimm. Welcome, Julie.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Philip.
Oh, I'm looking forward. I looked at your website extensively, and I had an imagine that we're going to have a great conversation. So even if I'm just jumping from one podcast to the next, this is the one I'm particularly looking forward to because so many triggers on your website already. So I can't wait to go into it. So let's first say hello to our viewers. It's going to be, I think, an interesting, mystical experience kind of a conversation. It's going to bring us in many which ways. Let's give ourselves a moment to listen to her self-introduction, and then we get a clearer picture of where we are going today. But I believe it's going to be interesting. With this, please, Julie, tell us a little bit about you and your background, and then let's get the ball rolling.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you so much. And thanks everybody for listening. So, I'm a spiritual guide. I live here in Boston, Massachusetts, just outside the city. And you might think, oh, I always had that calling. Was I always spiritual, always intuitive? The answer is definitely not. I actually have a master's degree in biology. I thought I wanted to be a scientist. I did actually become a scientist. And around that same time, I had a spiritual awakening that really shifted my understanding of reality. Quite frankly, it pulled the rug from out under my feet. And at that point, I started to search. I said, there's more here. There's more that I never even imagined more. And I know nothing. So I started to look around. I found a teacher, thankfully, a meditation teacher who as well studies in this 3,000-year-old ancient lineage that I now teach in as well as continue to study. And I could already tell just from the first meditation class, something was different. Something was different. I was able to go much deeper, have really profound insights into patterns that I was playing out within my own life. And from that awareness, start to react differently just from a meditation class. And then, of course, I got into the energy healing, ended up doing the Empower Thyself initiation, and fast forward 12 years, here I am on this beautiful podcast speaking to you about exactly that same work that profoundly transformed my life, and for those exact reasons, had me go study to learn how to do it for other people.
I didn't expect anything else from you. A person that puts on the website Leonardo da Vinci, Nikola Tesla on inspiration. I expected nothing else. And you so nicely, which I really already like. Again, this website is so lovely because you're so you put the mystics and all of the occult kind of things so relaxed and easy flowing. So by the way, it's also some total mystics and this and that. And I like the approach a lot. It resonates with me, and your introduction also, of course, you have the academic background. So you question things, you analyze things. Most probably you can't turn it off. And I guess when you have these spiritual experiences you had early on, most probably you did quite a hard of a searching because your scientist mind cannot be just stopped in a second. Bring us a little bit back. Let's start this conversation there because I'm sure it's really nice. And a lot of people will experience the same, that they have the rational mind and they have an intuitive mind or something is going on. And this back and forward, can it be? Should it be? Can you spend a minute to talk about it?
Yes. And this is a wonderful plug. I actually self-published an ebook on Amazon called About Faith, which is pretty much this exact story because when you come from such a rational mind, this is not a bad thing. It's an amazing tool. It's an amazing practice to have in the world because we can have discernment. The issue is that the world, it's not all mind. It's not all rational mind. Let's put it that way. It's not all rational mind. What I call it, it's like we have human logic and we have divine logic. And if we operate only from human logic, The world is only things that we could conceive of, things that we know, things I could find on Google, things I could find on a book. And I think now in this world of information overload, we're beginning to understand it's not about more information. It's about the self-knowledge. It's about the keys to begin to unlock doors to my own soul. Because in a way, the thing that you're looking for is the answer from your own soul. So fast forward or speed back, rewind 12 years ago, I had this awakening. I could see auras. I could feel chakras. To be quite honest, I thought that those were metaphors. I did not think that those were real things that existed. And then I saw them and I felt them and I understood this is real. And so because of that experience, I could no longer negate it in my mind. Let me tell you, I did actually try. I tried very hard. I was like, let's go back to the old life. Let's just live it. And what I discovered from that is, of course, A, you can't do that. But B, I really actually didn't want to because it was no longer fulfilling. Now that I could see more deeply, it didn't fulfill me in the way that maybe it once had. And although I was extremely skeptical, although I wanted, okay, where's the peer-reviewed paper about this life activation healing? Where's the peer-reviewed paper? And, I put on Nikola Tesla, I put on Leonardo da Vinci because they really were initiates within the same lineage. But to be quite honest, the personal experience and personal transformation of each person who goes through the process is in a way almost more important than that, right? So it's good to know the history. It's good to know where it came from. Again, we like the rational mind. There's nothing wrong with it. It doesn't have to be our adversary. We simply want to learn how to use it well and to balance it and marry it with faith in the unknown, trust in the unknown, and as well, hope, which means, not only do I think there's something that maybe I can't even perceive, but I have hope that it could even be better. And this is the world that we're in right now, right? If I just were to collect all my information from the news system, I would be in a really terrible mental and emotional state on a regular basis. But instead, we're being asked to cultivate faith that there's a bigger picture that we're all part of. There's a bigger direction in which we are heading. And not only can I have faith in this, that we are being guided as a humanity, but as well, I can have hope that it will even be better than I can imagine. And this is the frequency. It's not delusion. It's not wishful thinking. We call it magic, but using my personal will to align with the higher will of the divine, and in that way, redirect my own personal life and then the broader boat of humanity into the direction of this higher frequency.
You're not the first person asking the question, but because you're not my first scientist on my show, I have actually quite a lot of active scientists who are still teaching on university, still a lot of professors and researchers and people who have come from this world as well. But here's a really honest question. Why don't you make a peer-reviewed paper? Why don't you take 5 people with your gift of seeing the aura, where you, from personal connection, realize they really can do it as well as you? And why don't you go and say, I make that study. We are 3 people, different rooms, same person, at the same time, going from room to room, all give our explanation of the aura. And if 5 of us come to the same solution, now it's scientific, here's the stem. And finally bring this to the world as a matter of fact and not hearsay. Why is this so hard to get that done?
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of priorities. In fact, again, early days, I had my spiritual awakening. I found this lineage began to transform my life in ways that I just honestly couldn't even have imagined, and went to learn how to do energy healing. And exactly the first thing, I literally wrote out this whole abstract. This is how we would do it. This is the structure. This is it. And it's not a no. It's not a no. It was more important for me to work with people directly. It was more important for me to have the impact of it out there than necessarily the research. But at some point, it might be time, okay, pull the trigger, let's do the research. I think, we want to be careful. My role here is to touch people's lives. Yes, which being on podcasts, sharing the message, even letting people know it exists is a huge thing. So for that reason, I would do a peer-reviewed something like that. But my role here is not to cater to people's rational mind. My role is to share the message and communicate in a way that they can understand. But I'm not here to make somebody's rational mind feel better or feel okay. And therefore, I wouldn't want to do the study to appease that part of them. I could do the study to share it, to broaden it, to anchor it, to give it some credentials. But that's not the reason why I'm here. I'm not here to do a study. I'm here to profoundly transform humanity. If doing the study serves the purpose, we do the study. But to that end, if it doesn't, if it's going to be a misuse of my time, energy, my vitality, if I'm going to get into arguments with people that just want to argue, then, that's not really, that's not it.
Well, because I had a guest who has done a great work in the UK education system, and they actually there are some researchers who try to work with spirituality on a serious academic level. And that little data that they collected actually made it possible to have a government-funded huge program now in the UK where certain spirituality things is brought to the kids and teachers to handle that, especially in depressed areas where it's hard to get teachers because the kids in those schools are a little bit difficult. So specifically, those schools are targeted to give teachers some spiritual tools that are reviewed and also to help the kids to navigate. So actually, especially when you work with governments and fundings and things like that, if you have any kind of serious studies that show that aura and these things are real, specifically in medical terms, so many things can't be used in hospital without a proper study. And there's also good reasons why. So that's why I'm always pushing people like you who have the ability and who have the background to say, guys, I think actually the world desperately would need that stuff. So it can be funded by governments. Europe, of course, not the US, but at least we have a huge place where we could fund things like that. And of course, hospitals could use it as part of diagnosis once there is a scientific backing. Where I'm sitting, I get what you're saying, and I think it's very interesting. I'm saying where I'm sitting, I think we desperately right now would need papers to bring a broader, maybe you say more skeptical, rational society. But never mind, there are a lot of people, I guess, a lot of doctors who would love to bring it onto the table. There are maybe nurses or other people who would love to bring it into the room, but without a paper, they just can't legally.
No, it's a really good point. And really, by year 2 of being an energy healer, I really wrote out this whole plan. And maybe it will be used. It's just my personal timing. It wasn't right. But that's not a never. And I certainly hope that whoever's calling that does bring it forward, because to your point, it is hugely impactful with working with the bigger corporations like that, where they're going to be, or governments, or where they need that. So absolutely. And I do know quite a lot of people actually who do this work in the school system here in the US. We have something called like a Montessori school or a Waldorf school, which are working more with the works of actually Rudolf Steiner, which again, it's bringing back more of the spirituality of the child and educating them through that method versus, the current method, which is really just rote memorization and learning. So there's quite a lot there. And I know it is happening. It's not my focus, but it is important.
All right. Anyway, I tried my best, and who knows, maybe somebody's listening who will pick it up.
Maybe it's your calling. Maybe.
Oh, I'm not from an academic background. I'm unfortunately from the business world. When you're not from this kind of a world, you can't hardly get in, although a lot of academics come to me. Anyway, we have this understanding of what's going on, and you want to make an impact. You want to change the world actually for real and not just produce paper trails. This is fair enough. And first of all, you want to honor your personal calling and the experience that you had seeing things and knowing things. And let's get this a little bit out of the way, because you a couple of times mentioning the occult and all of these connections. Is there something you can share with us? Whereas here your inspiration, focus, black hoods going through the night in the forest over the fire. What is the occult part of your work?
Yeah, so it's interesting. So occult and mystic, because you used both those terms. So again, from the lineage that I study in, so a spiritual lineage, the word lineage here is telling us that there's a historical link. So the lineage is an unbroken history of this handing down of this sacred knowledge. So student to teacher. Before 3,000 years ago, the lineage still existed, but it was word to mouth or word to ear, mouth. It was a verbal handing down, an oral tradition. It was not written. And then 3,000 years ago, it became a written record. So now we actually have that written record of what we would call the people that were lineage key holders, the people who are responsible for maintaining the purity and the intactness of the lineage. And the occult and the mystic are actually almost like two sides of the same coin. So in a mystic tradition, that would be maybe more typically monastic. For example, you're really going within. And through that inner quest, you're unlocking the hidden information, the hidden wisdom. The occult practices, I know that maybe there's some, okay, we all have to be in robes around a candlelight or something. It actually really at its core means to go into the world and through the experience of life to learn. So the mystic quest and the occult quest are using different energies to gain enlightenment is one way to talk about it. And so the occultist finds enlightenment in life. Here you and I are having our tea or our coffee. In simply the creation of the coffee, we have alchemy, we have chemistry, we have the essence of the coffee itself, we have art and design, and there's so much here that if I'm present with it, I can actually have what I would call awakening or enlightening, right? There's so much of our daily life that is actually quite magical. I had a hot shower today. I just turned a little tap and then instant hot water for as long as I could need it. And, 200 years ago, that was a fantasy. That was something, oh, you're crazy. That's never going to happen. And now here it is. And we take it for granted. So the occultist, through their own life, is starting to go, wow, and see the essence of spirit in everything. The mystic, by pulling back, is going into the inner world, and through the inner journey, through meditation, through reflection, contemplation, inner study, they're having those moments. And so in the tradition that I study in the Modern Mystery School, we do both. There is place for both. But it is more of an occult than the mystic, especially when you were to compare it to a monk tradition. So none of us are monks. We don't live outside of the world. I have bills that I pay. I have cell phone. Here I am on Zoom. People have families, wives, husbands, children. And that is an aspect, actually, of you could call it study, because it's study through the experience of your life. And so the mission of the Modern Mystery School is actually world peace, but it's through the heart energy. And so it kind of makes sense that you would want people who are like living in the world, because that heart chakra really is the marriage between the higher spiritual planes and the earthly planes. Our mission here, personally, there's nothing wrong with being a monk. They have their own mission. It's different. But our mission is to actually exist in life, to be part of life and all its challenges, and read the news and watch the movies and see and experience, and through that have the transformation and alchemize it, anchoring more of the spirit into the physical, and as well through the physical having more of a spiritual awakening.
Well, thank you for this clarification. A lot of people who are maybe newer to this whole game, they need to understand those words, and they need to understand that there are very distinguished paths out there, and they all may lead to enlightenment or higher knowledge. But the paths, we have a couple of very interesting paths available, and you explained it super nice here. Thank you so much. Well done. And just to see, tell us a little bit about the new Mystic School. Maybe first time people hearing about it have no idea where is it located and how does it work, or maybe can you give us a minute?
Yeah, sure. I have my own center in Boston, Massachusetts, but I study within this broader Modern Mystery School is what it's called. It's an international school with the main international headquarters being in Toronto, Canada. There are also main centers in Brazil, South Africa, London in the UK, and Japan. And I think worldwide we're something like 45,000 adept initiates. So there's people in Romania, people in Prague, people in all over the world in different places, and we come together for this shared mission. So it really is, it begins with that inner calling where you're just feeling there's something more that you don't have to, I call it a choose your own adventure. So you take as much as you want and then you just live your life. It's not about, you have to now do everything within the school or something like that. Not at all. Part of the practice of the initiation is assisting you in going deeper with your personal mission here. And again, we all have very different missions. So for me, when I received that, I was like, oh my gosh, I need to learn how to teach meditation. I need to learn how to do energy healing because it's part of my purpose. For others, it might be, oh, now I'm going to do that study because bringing science, spirituality to science is actually part of my mission. Or it might be to create art or to write a book, or maybe it's just transformation within your personal relationships. It's really just assisting people in general in embodying more of their soul and spirit here in the physical. But of course, it's here to, spread world peace by encouraging each person, assisting each person in cultivating the inner peace, because we can't have world peace if every human out there is living in this state of chaos. And so it's that inner quest initially of how do I discover and maintain and sustain world peace within this world? And then how can I share that with other people? How can I share that with the world around me?
What is basically taught there in the school? But it was a cult. Is there also magic being taught and things like that? There's a lot of magic on my podcasts, but never mind. People always are interested into this part of the teaching, I guess. So maybe there are some black hoodies in the wood over the fire.
Yeah, they're absolutely. So magic. And again, magic meaning what the mind can't imagine is real. And so magic 200 years ago is different than magic today. But the amazing thing is that humans make magic because now we have the hot shower on demand. We have the espresso machine on demand. We have these things that, again, the things that we think are impossible today might be real 100 years from now, to the point that we would look at the future society and go, how do they do that? That's magical. And the modern mystery school would say, yes, it is literally magical. And you need magic for that transformation. Because again, if we only operate from human logic, we're looking in the box. We're only looking at the box and we're saying the box is what's possible. Magic goes, oh no, there's a whole world outside the box that you don't even think exists. Maybe you hope it exists, but I'm going to tell you it does. And through that sustained focus, we can bring it about. We can make it happen. And that's why I have Nikola Tesla. That's why I have Carl Jung. That's how I have Leonardo da Vinci. They were magicians in that first very simple meaning of the word, that they imagined things other people thought, are you dumb? You must have lost some brain cells there. And they thought, no, this is possible. No, this could happen. And they began to dream it up, but not just wishful thinking. Again, they dreamed it up with a plan. They dreamed it up with action. They dreamed it up with follow through and creative pursuit. And they actually began to manifest and make real these things that were only what seemed make-believe. And we all have that power. Every single one of us has that power. And so honestly, it could even be as simple. I mean, it might sound a little crazy, but I was a bit of a hippie when I was young as well. So I was a scientist, I was a bit of a hippie, which, I was extremely into like conservation of the planet. And there was somehow in my mind this thing like, oh, I'm never going to own a car. I just thought I'm never going to own a car. It seemed too inexpensive a thing. I live in a city. It somehow was like outside my frame of reality. Now, for most people, it's you just buy a car. It's not that big a deal. But there was a way inside my mind, it was like, no, that's out here. That's in the realm of impossible for me. And so my magic, first of all, I had to then want a car. At some point, I was like, okay, no, it's appropriate for me to have a car now with my life and the things I need to do and whatnot. And now I'm going to break my own box and start to create magic in my own life and to manifest things that I didn't think were possible for me. So it's not only about breaking the limitations of humanity. I think those great thinkers, the people who discovered amazing things, they were breaking the box of humanity. But as well, each one of us has our own little box. This is my world. This is what's possible for me. This is what's not possible for me. And so we can create magic in our own life simply by bringing in things that we didn't think we could ever have. Or as I sometimes call it, like making dreams come true.
Right. This is, of course, very fair enough. And the personal magic makes a lot of sense. But I guess most of us amateurs would associate magic with calling all kind of angels and demons and command them to the will. So that's our primitive understanding of magic because...
No, it's not primitive at all. So how do we manifest? How do we manifest here on Earth? And that is a main thing that we as humans are learning. How do we manifest? We have unseen support teams. We have physical support teams. We have unseen support teams, including angels, like you mentioned, spirit guides. So we want to understand how we can lean on and utilize those unseen forces to assist and aid in our manifestation. So it's not all, again, that's the difference. It's not wishful thinking. It's not positive affirmations. So we do use stylized energetic rituals and practices as tools to manifest, to sustain our energy in the light, to heal. Absolutely, yeah.
Right. This now needs to ask a question about your day-to-day work. You said you're working with people, and I think this is a good moment to just tell us a little bit what you do on your day-to-day work with. Is it online one-on-ones, or you're doing it live, or you said you have your own school, so I guess you're teaching. Just here, give us a moment.
Yeah, so I do a small amount online. So if people are not in Boston, I do a small amount online. Predominantly, it's in person. And so if somebody's not near Boston, I know plenty of people around the globe. Like I mentioned, there's people in, I think it's like over 50 countries who do this work that I could refer them to. But it's a lot of it is in person. And in person, again, when we're working on the aura, when we're working on the etheric structure, when we're working on these very specific energy structures, it's more impactful. For a lot of these things, it does need to be done in person. And so I'll do one-on-one healing sessions with people where we're working very targetedly. There's something called the life activation, which is helping to now anchor that spiritual blueprint into your physical structure, helping to turn on the lights, so to speak, so that you can see a little bit more, maybe places where you've lost connection to your own spirit. I often see that as a catalyst for people to make change and breakthrough in their lives. Again, yes, personal creative discoveries, magic, but even alchemy in relationships, healing old wounds, forgiveness where they thought they could never find forgiveness, things like that. And then I do teach classes. So, for example, sacred geometry, astral travel, spiritual intuition, and then the Empower Thyself initiation, which is actually an initiation into the lineage. So initiation meaning entrance into, and here, or beginning of, you could think of. And here it's really entrance into that new level of light worker, that new level of personal responsibility to continually cleanse myself of my own darkness and then share that with the world. Stepping into that, it is new responsibility, but as well it comes then with greater access to your soul, rituals and practices to work with the unseen team, your spiritual guides, your angels, and things like that.
Of course, my viewers know the next question. I'm so predictable. But of course, who is your regular client? Why they come? What is their problem? Man, female, old, young? Who is your regular client and what they expect from you? They have, I don't know, marriage problems or anxiety or stuff like that. Or they really said, no, I want this man to fall in love with me, do a little bit of magic and make it happen. You never know.
No, I don't do love spells. Should you want to, you could go learn for yourself. It's personal magic, though. So I facilitate healing, but I'm not doing like spells for other people. No. But yes, so it's interesting you mentioned it. So
if the price is right.
I'd rather give you the tools and then you can do it for yourself. And again, it's not about, I do actually work quite a lot with people in relationships, people who they've noticed this deep pattern. They keep running the same pattern. It's maybe they change partners and it's the same story, where oftentimes they are putting themselves second. Maybe they put their partner, their family at the center of their life, and then they become the orbit. And that's very unsatisfying. As a spiritual being, You are meant to be at the center of your life. You are the central sun. Through your position there, you radiate and nourish all the relationships in your life. So if you take yourself out of the center and put another person there, put the relationship there, even a child, put a job there, you're going to feel burnt out, resentful. You're going to feel taken for granted. And you do actually set yourself up to be taken for granted and abused. So I see that quite a lot in clients where my work with them is to help them understand their position. It is also responsibility as the sunshine of their universe to nourish and sustain their relationships, but because they are the central priority. And yes, it's not from that selfish state, but it's from actually energetically, that's the appropriate place for them to be. So you could also think of it in terms of video games. I'm not like a huge video gamer, but no person should be a non-playing character in their life. You are the person playing the game. You are the active, you in no way should you have a relationship where your role is just to stand there, because that's not honoring yourself. That's not honoring the value that you bring. If in your job you're feeling that you don't have initiative, you don't have the proper authority, you're not being seen, understood, or valued, then there's an inner shift. It always starts in the inner world. Where am I witnessing myself? Do I honor myself? Do I even know my gifts? Because to honor our gifts, we have to know our gifts. Or am I just giving it all away for free? And that's in all areas and all relationships of our lives. And then the other big thing that I work with clients is purpose. We all have a sacred purpose. We all have a sacred mission. And so oftentimes when we are disconnected from that, we're going to feel lost. We're going to wake up with no energy. We're going to feel depressed, potentially even anxious. We feel like we don't matter. We wonder, do I matter? We hope we matter, but we're not sure. And so it's helping people remember, why am I here? Why was I born? Why am I alive? And that begins again with an energy, not like a whole download, but maybe. It starts here. We remember the joy and the beauty of life. And through that, we begin to remember, who am I really? Why am I really here? And from that, we can start to make the shifts and changes that are necessary in our life, which could be career change, but it could also simply be the way that we're showing up in our present state, in our present career. Again, am I honoring myself, valuing myself? Do I know my gifts, and am I doing them on purpose? Or am I doing them sort of disconnected, meaning I'm allowing other people, again, to take advantage of them?
Sorry, I had a beautiful question in my mind, and then I got distracted. That hardly ever happens. So you're very lucky to experience it. 100 podcasts a year, maybe once or twice, I get distracted. So today is the day. Let's celebrate. Yeah, once it's gone. Yeah, no, I remember. There you go. Let me try the love thingy one more time and come from the other direction, because you mentioned 2 or 3 times alchemy. And so maybe if you studied alchemy, obviously, and you're a biologist and there's a huge medical alchemy out there, so can I maybe get the love portion from you?
Love? Are we still talking about love?
No, it's just making fun. But did you study, are you looking into alchemy? Do you look into a medical alchemy? Is that one thing that you're interested in?
Now I understood your joke. I'm sorry. I missed it exactly. So again, though, with the love, here, self-love. No other person's going to fill the hole. If you have a void in here, if you have a void in your heart, if you have a wall in your heart, you will feel that there's a lack of love, because there's a lack of love here. And so the alchemy is here. And then in the inner, when we transform the inner, the outer shifts. So that's the key. So I'm sorry, I can't give you a love potion, but I could do an energy healing for you that could facilitate that inner transformation, which you are doing. Yes, alchemy is absolutely a field of study within the modern mystery school. It is powerful in a way you could think of all of that we're doing in the mystery school is alchemy. It's personal alchemy. So each initiation is helping to alchemize the person Each energy healing is helping to alchemize and enhance the frequency and vibration of that person and their life and their reality, which then in turn is alchemizing their world and then the world.
But did you personally look into like really alchemy with making medicine and things like that? Because, there's a huge tradition there's alchemy looking for gold, and there's the other huge tradition looking for alchemy to make medicine. And the third tradition is alchemy with the soul and the spirit. And these are the three big alchemistic traditions. Did you, as a biology background, not been curious to mix your little medicine?
That would be a good question. In a way, yes.
I asked.
Yeah. But primarily the way that I've applied alchemy is through the spirit. When I take my scientific understanding and I'm applying it not simply to fluids, liquids, and potions, but to my whole entire life. So you're talking about data points and you're talking about research. Our life is giving us data points each and every day. I think it's Albert Einstein says insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So to be a scientist in your life spiritually is to begin to observe, what am I doing every day? Is it giving me the result that I want? If it's not giving me the result that I want, perhaps I need to do something different. And so we're doing that transformational alchemy on our day-to-day existence, and through that, having those breakthroughs. I personally have not done the love potion portion of the alchemy. I'm not sure if it exists, but for sure there is.
Yeah.
You can take alchemy within the mystery school where you have a whole setup and you're working with, tinctures and things like that. Because of course, every day, again, we already talked about our tea and our coffee. This is alchemy. This is magic. It's here. It's not out there. It's not in, only fantasy movies or something like that. It's here. And, you're talking about gold. Again, here we want to take the lead of our life, all of the good, the bad, the ugly, everything that ever happened, the things that I did that felt random, but they weren't. The past lives I've lived, the way, I take all of that and that's all up for grabs. And then I alchemize it again through these spiritual tools. And then I can discover the gold of my life, the gold of my spirit, and begin to work with that.
All right. Because it's a really interesting field, this alchemy where you make medicine and you work with all of these substances. It's a wonderful field and it's quite interesting to do. And you being with a biological background, you would understand this so better than so many of us. So you're in a pole position to make your own medicine.
Yeah, I love that idea. But I'm working with the spirit. So for me, for now, but I do love, I've heard of like vibrational, especially, different essences, vibrational elixirs, and for sure, it's a wonderful and very cool. I mean, the world right now is changing very quickly. The world, we already talked about the world of science, the world of schooling, the world of healthcare. These old systems are very much actively fading because we're seeing that they're not really supporting the new world that we want to build. They're not supporting the world that is more connected to spirit. And so I think in the next 100 years, we're going to see tons of shifts, exactly what you're talking about. More of this vibrational medicine, alchemy and medicine in the schools, more energy healing, spiritual understanding within the school systems and things, and as well within the world of science.
Just said it because if you would have been into natural alchemy, I would have, of course, asked about vibration. That would have been, so to say, my next question, because that's all about mixing and creating vibrations, no matter in which way. I guess that you will work with mental vibrations, most likely, when you're putting imprints on people. So I guess you again here creating the certain vibrational field and putting those imprints. That's most probably some of the magic that you will again do in your mind.
Yeah, and as well, each one of us have that power, whether we are aware of it or not. Everything that you wear has a vibration, the moisturizer, the perfume, clothing, each thing that we work with every day has a vibration. So we can already start to pay attention. People will say that, okay, my clothing doesn't suit me anymore. It's not me, because the vibration no longer matches and aligns. So that's where we can perform the alchemy. What's my frequency now? And then we can express it in the outer. We can express it through how we dress. We can express it through, as a woman, or a man, whatever, the makeup that we wear. We can express it, the words that we say, the body moisturizer, right? So it doesn't have to be this like, oh, I'm only doing that when I'm pouring different medicines together. But actually through our everyday choices and actions, we are cultivating a frequency. And then the question, is it in alignment? So if we're continuing to choose from the old frequency, then we're going to kind of keep ourselves in the past. But if we're sensitive, oh no, there's been a change here. I want to cut my hair. How many people, it's okay, it's time for me to get bangs or whatnot, because there's been some inner shift and they want to immediately express it outwards. And it can come down to the food that we eat. Again, is it the right frequency for me? Is it, or am I just sort of eating on autopilot? So there's all of that each and every day that we can live in that alchemical state. And again, understand the magic that is quite frankly at our fingertips simply through the choices that we make. And we want to make them intentionally. We want to feel, oh, this is a good choice for me today, which again, tomorrow, maybe it's a different one. But okay, nope, today, this is how I want to live.
You just said the words we choose. And again, here comes magic into play because, spells and word magic is super important to create the frequencies to set the stage. So I guess this will be an important part of what you're teaching in the school, that people understand that certain words create certain vibrations. And that is, I guess, another part of it. All right, we are moving forward, and I guess we a little bit can spend a minute in astral traveling and those things that you then do ultimately once you have cleaned and, connected with the divine, got the guidance, got your guardian angels, whatever, bringing you onto this journey. And there where the great inspiration lies, I guess, and where you also learn from the lineage, most probably where the big teachers are, that's giving you the lessons to decode that network that is spreading around us, that vibrational structure around us, and how to manipulate or form or transform those vibrational net. So maybe you tell us a little bit about the great network of the travel.
Yeah, astral travel, and actually quite a lot what you're talking about is sacred geometry as well, because sacred geometry is actually vibration. And every word that we speak has a geometry, has a frequency. And, they actually have done studies where you can put sound through grains of sand, for example, or speak word into water and it will crystallize into different forms. So quite literally our words, like you're saying, they're a tool for manifestation and they have a geometry to them as well. And so exactly what you're saying, we want to understand that and then speak into existence the geometries that will uplift our life and the lives of other people. And then astral travel is a means by which we can shift our consciousness into the seventh spiritual dimension, which is at that oneness with the divine. And from there, we can travel anywhere in the planet, basically anywhere that our mind could imagine. And by planet, I actually mean solar system, anywhere that the mind can imagine. And again, it's just affirming the essence of our spirit, the magic of our spirit, that we are all one, that we are in that state of time. An aspect of each one of us is already in that state of timelessness. And by shifting into that part of me that exists there already, I can then explore the entire universe. And ideally, we're doing that in order that we can understand ourselves better. And through that knowledge, again, shift our life. So for me, I don't use astral travel necessarily every single day, but there's different periods of my life where maybe for a 3-4 month, 5 period of time, I've done it every day and really felt that this is my calling. I need to be more connected to the astral travel. And from that, just so much more clarity, because again, you're just spending time in that oneness state. And from there, we really understand, oh no, this is possible. Oh yeah, this is who I am. Oh yeah, I'm connected to these things that perhaps I desire to manifest. I'm actually already connected to them. And it's simply by means of staying connected in a focused way that I can bring it through into my life. So amazing tools, again, necessary tools. I do think that these are the tools that are going to bring humanity into this next era, into the discoveries that are going to enhance the lives of everybody in the next era, into the breakthroughs, the scientific, the spiritual, the humanistic breakthroughs, even artistic breakthroughs of the next paradigm, the next world.
Thank you so much for bringing us to another Rome. But we have hopefully a couple of minutes left. My battery is holding. I have to ask, it's, part of my job description, where there's light, there's ultimately shadow. And where you do good, you can do evil. And most probably, whenever there are angels, there are demons. Otherwise, the whole thing would not make any sense. I guess I would like to see your personal take when people come and maybe are connected to the darker energy that's eating them or draining them. Are you using your powers to help people, to cleanse them? Are you, what is your connection to the darkness?
Yeah, so we teach in the Empower Thyself initiation, we teach about something called the negative ego. The negative ego is the self-sabotage, the limited thinking, the fear, blame, guilt, shame that manipulates you into choosing the action that does not actually serve you. And the way that we overcome and heal and clear and break through the negative ego is through the light that we are, the spirit that we are. So every single human on this planet, even if they've done great darkness, great harm, they have that spirit, they have that light within. And the way that we overcome the dark is by making that light so big, shining that bright light so strongly that there's no place for the shadow. And we can see this. So take a dark room filled with shadow. It's fully dark. I simply put one candle, not even a full light, just a candle. Boom. Already there's so much light in that room. I can see so much more. And what if I were to make that brighter and brighter? And now all of a sudden there's no shadow. There's no room for a shadow. So first and foremost, the way that we defeat the inner shadow is through the truth of our own light. And the light is the truth, because I know it can be very kind of glamorous and sexy. We're going to talk about our shadow and shadow work. But yes, there is a place for it. The way that we overcome darkness the best is by knowing the light of who we really are. And from that, oh, I'm the light. Boom. There's no foothold for the shadow anymore. The light is, not even 10 times is an underestimate of how much more powerful the light is than any shadow. So by coming into that truth of our divinity and our spirit, we can eliminate all of our inner shadows. And so the journey is, how do I do that and how do I sustain that? And what I see with my clients is that the fight, if you were to call it a fight, is to, first of all, they have to see, where is my own shadow coming in? And then they have to stop believing it, because so many people are so aligned with their own inner shadow, their own inner darkness, their own inner demons, as you put it. They're so bought in. Oh, I'm nothing. I'm dumb. I'm stupid. I'm worthless. If I believe in myself, my partner's going to leave me and this is going to happen, all this, da 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 da. And it's like they're so tricked, manipulated by that inner trickster, the saboteur, the negative ego, that they're missing the whole light and the power of their spirit and their being. And in a way, they're not trusting the power of the light. So that's where, yes, the tools are very effective to help them shift, help them clear, and specifically the Empower Thyself initiation, which is helping you connect at a super deep level with your own spirit and your own soul. So that light just comes in and fills the client, boom, right up. Where now the fight, they don't have to fight so hard because there's so much light. The low-hanging fruit just drops away. And that's what I experienced when I did the Empower Thyself initiation, 11 years ago. I was shocked by how much in a short time negativity that I was creating, and I knew I was creating, but I couldn't stop myself from creating, how much just dropped. And it was really profound because I wasn't even really expecting that result. But then I saw it and that's where I was like, I need to go learn how to do this for other people, because that was wild and that was amazing. And even if each of my client only got 10% of what I've just received, job done. And I know, of course, each person that I work with is going to get way more than 10% of what I received. But it's not really like me doing it. It's me. I facilitate the opening of the light of that person's spirit to come through, but it's their own light that is already strong enough. They just are not connected to it in a way that they need to be. And so as that light comes through, it does the job. It clears out. It makes the breakthrough. And then they reap the benefits of that in their own life.
It's a beautiful, beautiful statement that I can see you're standing standing with the angels no matter what. That is definitely your calling. I'm always fascinating because I think I had now almost 200, close to 200 podcasts, and I only had, I think, one person who clearly sit there and said that he is, on the dark side. Everybody's light, everybody's light and love. And then you look into the world and say, if everybody's light and love, where's all the darkness coming from? And I would always imagine, as many as people are who work with the angels, there must be people out there who work with the darkness. Otherwise, it would just not come from itself. But obviously, they don't like podcasts. Only angels like podcasts. That's a good way to see it.
Yeah. And maybe one day you'd train with the Modern Mystery School. There are deeper teachings on exactly what you just talked about. But first and foremost, we have to remember the light and the truth of who we are, because the way that we clear the darkness is from that energy. And that's the most powerful force that we have on this planet, by far and away.
That would be my New Year's resolution: get the darkness to my podcast.
No, you don't want that. You're good.
Go viral. I need more. Thank you so much, Julie. It was wonderful. And everybody around Boston, I love the fact that you're so young and you don't seem to be old school, because everybody these days, like, no, I work online, space doesn't matter. And I'm an old guy and we are hands-on. We like to see our people we are working with. And I a little bit mistrust the whole one-to-one online, but everybody keeps insisting, no, it's quantum physics, space and time don't matter. But I like to see, smell, feel the person in the room. You get a lot of sensory experience when you guide them to those very, very deep, meaningful processes. So I love that I found somebody who is clearly not 53 like me and still believes in the real world approach. It's already I'm falling in love, so to say. Thank you very much. And I hope there will be more people like you who still think the world is not gone yet completely. Thank you, Julie.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Philip. And thanks everybody for listening. I really had such a wonderful time on this show. So thank you.